Jonathan Taylor has been granted permission to seek a trade. Who are the candidates and what does this contract extension look like? We're breaking that down today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Joe, just when you thought we kind of knew what our weekly programming was going to look like, we sat down. We spent a significant amount of time brainstorming. There's week 0 college football. We're going to do takes on takes this week. Okay, we got 2 days. How do we want to fill it? We have a couple back and forths. We feel really good about it. Boom. Jonathan Taylor's been granted permission to seek a trade. Obviously, that hold-in situation has been volatile since the Colts reported to training camp almost, I guess, really a month ago. And now we have a major rabbit hole to go down here on the show.
We're going to go down the rabbit hole. We're going to look at these teams. We're going to figure out who should be in the mix, who should not be in the mix, talk about what the extension looks like. And by the end of this, I think we're going to figure out what team Jonathan Taylor is going to play for next.
So at least we'll have a short list.
Yeah, right. That was a nice tease, right? Come on.
Yes.
Squashed it right away.
When we cut the promo for the show, we'll stop before I clarified it's going to be a short list.
You squashed that quicker than Stephon Diggs squashed Stephen A. Smith's erroneous claims yesterday. You know what I mean?
I'll be keeping my comment to myself. I'm just surprised that wasn't Locked On Bills today. Was trade partners for Stephon Diggs? Since
never gave it a thought. Never gave it a single thought.
All right. So our first objective is we're going to go through all 31 teams, right? And what lens are we asking the question yes or no with Jonathan Taylor to? Is he an upgrade? Should they be interested? Are they in a team life cycle to be in a position to make the acquisition? Like, how do you want to package that?
Just think about it all. But I don't know, Kyle, you said 31 teams. Let's think about all 32. I think the Indianapolis Colts would be well served to have Jonathan Taylor as their running back, to go with Anthony Richardson and have this running game to lean on as they acclimate to a new franchise quarterback. But
if they're planning on keeping him beyond this year, yes. But if they are not intent on paying him, if they are intent on not paying him, then it makes no sense to keep him.
Right. I get that. I don't know. Like, I think Jonathan Taylor's probably looking at this himself like, man, I don't know about this Jim Irsay guy. I'm not sure about some of this roster construction. This Chris Ballard guy has been a little reluctant to really spend money and do what he needs to do to get us over the hump. We've had a different quarterback every year that I've been here. I kind of get it from JT's perspective. Go somewhere. This is his big opportunity to get that big payday. And he's certainly positioning himself to do that.
Yeah, well, he's going to go for it. Just put it that way. He's going to go for it. And we are going to go for it. Let's start backwards. You can do the NFC West and work our way back.
Sure, as long as you are the master of ceremonies, I
have the keys to the car here.
All right.
So good. It's effectively smash or pass, right?
Oh, all right.
And I'm just going to say the team. We're going to acknowledge, yes, this would make sense for them to explore, or no.
Okay.
The San Francisco 49ers.
No,
I agree. The Seattle Seahawks with their 2 draft picks in the last 2 seasons. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. The Los Angeles Rams.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, why not? First of all, you love the trade. Cam Akers is your starting running back. I mean, you don't tell me. I mean, come on.
From
There's got to be
from a team life cycle perspective, with the Rams flushing all this out of the system, they're going to have to make a transition for a quarterback at some point here in the recent future, and you're going to trade meaningful assets when you haven't made any draft picks in the top.
You don't think this is a possibility? This team loves star power, man.
I will put them down as a yes, but it is very begrudged. If I was Les Snead, I just feel it flies completely in the face of everything else you did this offseason. But I digress. The Arizona Cardinals.
Yes. Young football team needs some type of identity.
What's the offensive line look like?
We're working on it. I'm just saying it's got to be a consideration. You
can pick one. Rams or Cardinals. I won't put them both down.
You don't think it's logical for both of those teams to be in this conversation?
I do not think it is logical for the Arizona Cardinals how bad that roster is, because you said in the pre-show this is a 4-year window to maximize Jonathan Taylor. What are the Cardinals going to do in year 1 and year 2?
Stuff happens quick, man.
What are they going to do in year 1 and year 2 of a 4-year window?
I think it's reasonable.
Cardinals are a no. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes.
Okay. I will agree with you here because of how wide open that division is. The Carolina Panthers.
No.
Why not, Joe? Wide open division?
Sure, put him down. Miles Sanders not that good. You know, he got a physical offensive line, young quarterback. Put him down.
I think the barricade for Carolina is the
draft capital.
Not even the draft capital, although it is worth considering that they sent away draft picks for this trade up to number 1. It's also the component of the contract that they gave Miles Sanders.
I would agree. That's why I said no originally, but
right. So they're no. They're no. The New Orleans Saints.
No.
Have Alvin Kamara currently under contract.
Just paid Jamal Williams. Just drafted Kendre Miller, who they like. Yeah.
Atlanta Falcons.
No.
Just use the top 10 pick on Bijan Robinson. Okay. The Minnesota Vikings.
Yes.
I agree. Are you at all worried that is another team in which it flies in the face of everything else that they have done this offseason?
No, I mean, I understand why you would say that, but I mean, we're talking about acquiring a 24-year-old superstar, not moving on from veterans that have become stale on your roster. It's an addition. I mean, they traded for TJ Hawkinson. I think that kind of falls in line with that type of stuff.
Okay. That I think that's the best argument that you gave, because it's like, well, Kwesi's very analytically driven, right? But if you're going to take draft capital and go get a tight end, and they've done that, I think that's a great point to invoke.
But a blanket statement that I would make over this entire conversation is I think very few teams actually should be in this mix, right? Like in terms of the way that I perceive it. Like that's very different than, okay, I think they could be in the mix.
Okay. So we're saying yes for Minnesota.
Yes for me.
Detroit.
No.
Just use Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, big visions for him. And David Montgomery got a decent sized contract as well.
That's your backfield.
The Green Bay Packers.
No.
Nope. Y'all are set.
Yep.
Chicago Bears.
I have this down for a yes.
I have this down for a yes as well. The Philadelphia Eagles.
No.
Can you sell me why it should be a no?
Well, I don't know. I think it's just an expensive roster, and funneling money towards the running back position doesn't really align with the way that they've approached building this football team. I think for them it would make sense because of the skill set, the player, Jalen Hurts, all of that. It's exciting.
So let's put them down as a yes then, because that's what segments 2 and 3 are all about.
Sure.
Is picks and money, right?
Okay.
Dallas Cowboys.
Yes.
The New York Giants.
Probably just stay away from expensive running backs right now.
I think they've done enough. The Washington Commanders.
This was a hard one for me. I think it might be a soft yes.
Okay. Put them as a yes. The Denver Broncos.
No.
I agree. The Las Vegas Raiders. No.
You got
the Josh Jacobs thing.
You already got your own problem.
You got to figure that one out. The Chargers.
I don't think so, but I could maybe be sold here.
I think the biggest blockade with the Chargers is they have a lot of really bloated salary cap hits long term. Now, they also have Austin Eckler, this Jonathan Taylor, this Zeke Elliott to Eckler being the Tony Pollard of Kellen Moore's offense. I think it gets kind of interesting.
Yeah, like in a non-limited resource environment. Okay, yeah, that sounds really exciting, right? Jonathan Taylor's probably going to elevate any team, but
so we'll put him down. We'll put him down as a yes.
Okay,
Kansas City Chiefs.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so as well. The Houston Texans.
No.
The Indianapolis Colts.
Yes.
The Tennessee Titans. No.
No.
The Jaguars.
Man, they love Tank Bigsby.
Yeah. Well, and so you have ETN as a first-round pick.
Yeah.
You have Bigsby as a day 2 investment that they've made.
They like, yeah. I think they're kind of set.
So I'd probably say no there. The Cleveland Browns.
No.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
No. Jalen Warren, baby. What are we talking about here?
I have a feeling we're going to have a yes here for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun. Not fun to play against, but a lot of fun for Baltimore.
Nobody needs that.
The Cincinnati Bengals.
I don't think so.
I think the biggest issue there is you have these looming contracts that you already have to give out. And they've already talked about desiring keeping the current core together. And you just had a running back that took a pay cut to stay here.
Right.
Now you're going to go out and trade a premium draft capital pick to get another running back and preempt paying T. Higgins to pay Jonathan Taylor. I think it's a no. The New England Patriots.
No.
Zeke
Stevenson,
Elliott.
Zeke, yeah, they kind of got their path.
The New York Jets after signing Dalvin Cook.
Nope.
And then our 2 teams, the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins.
Which order? One at a time.
The Miami Dolphins.
I guess.
Yes. And I also think the Bills are a yes.
Gross.
I understand your personal
Absolutely
stance. I understand your personal stance. That gives us the Bills, Dolphins, Ravens, Colts as the incumbents here. Chiefs and Chargers in the AFC, which is 6 teams. And then you have Philadelphia, Dallas, Washington, Minnesota, Chicago, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles Rams, which is 7 teams in the NFC. So it's almost half the league. Is like you can make a pretty firm argument that's not conflicting with their current status at the position or their current trajectory as a football team that should at least be mildly interested.
Kyle, maybe you're a team that's going to trade for Jonathan Taylor and you're a fan and you want to buy tickets to go see Jonathan Taylor play for the new team. Well, you got to check out Gametime. You know, sometimes buying tickets for your favorite events is stressful, but it really shouldn't be. Gametime, it is the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting excited for the fun that you're going to have. Folks, this app is awesome. They have flash deals. They have last-minute tickets. They also give you images of the seats so that you know exactly what your view is going to be like when you get to the venue. And the prices are great. Everything is super easy to navigate. Check it out. And like I said, you get those images of the tickets, but they're also sent directly to your phone. So you don't have to like dig through emails to find your tickets. It's super, super convenient. So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
All right. So now we started NFC West and worked our way through. Now we'll serpentine it. We'll start with the Bills and come our way back.
How many teams are on this list?
It's 13.
Good Lord. And you didn't even let me have one of the teams I wanted.
Correct.
Wow.
And well, I think you could also make an argument with where the Washington Commanders are as well, that they're probably a no, or they should be a no. So I think roughly you're looking at a dozen teams. You could go a dozen to 12 to 15 teams. I think you could make a pretty interesting argument for. But we have 13 for now.
Okay, let's do it.
What is that? Is that a baker's dozen? That's a baker's dozen, right? It's 13.
Is that 13? 7. I don't,
Is it?
dude.
I'm asking you.
I don't know anything about it. I've heard the phrase. I never knew what it meant. Does it mean 12? Does it mean 11, 13? I don't know. No idea what that means.
Baker's dozen is 13, yes. So we have a Baker's dozen of NFL franchises.
I like when I order a Baker's dozen of wings and they give me that 13th wing and not a 12th.
Sneak it in
keep,
there.
Keep the donut to yourself. I'll take the wing.
So can we agree the Colts are not going to get a 1 for Jonathan Taylor? Holder.
This is the team that gave up a 1 for Trent Richardson. So
I understand that. But the Colts, according to, I believe it was Stephen Holder of ESPN, who's been all over this entire story the entire time. So tip the hat to him. Has said the Colts are looking for a 1 or assets equal to a 1 in order to trade Jonathan Taylor.
Some teams might be like, if you're the Bills, okay, and you're probably going to be picking in the pack 25% of the first round, you're probably like, that's different than the conversation that we might have for a different team.
Like Tampa or Washington.
Sure, right. Or Chicago or, one of those types of teams. So maybe you are certain teams that may make more sense for. So maybe.
So really what it boils down to is this. I think we look at the Baker's dozen and we say, well, from a draft capital perspective, what they have. And then we try to, if we have time at the end, kind of come to what we would utilize draft capital, what draft capital we would use. Okay. So the Bills, you're making the argument they are probably picking 24th or later in the first round.
Yep.
So that would qualify them as having sufficient draft capital.
Yeah, and I think they might have a player that interests the Colts as well.
Oh yeah,
Kyer Elam. I think that's a player
that's your dangle.
I guess I don't want any of this to happen, but I think that's a player that maybe be expendable. You could talk yourself into it. I think the challenge with the Bills is, they give their lead running back between 175 and 220 touches. They're not a team that prioritizes running the football. I don't think this type of investment, not only to part with assets to get the player, but also commit the cap space to the player moving forward. I don't know if this makes a lot of sense for the Bills.
Okay. But they have the draft capital.
I think they can do it. Yeah. If they want to do it, they can do it. And they've done business with the Colts quite a bit. They've done several trades with the Colts.
Okay. The Dolphins have a 1, a 2, and then their next pick is a 5. So that's the barrier for Miami, is you have a little bit less wiggle room. The 4 was a part of the Bradley Chubb trade. The 3 was forfeited by Stephen Ross for the tampering allegations that came out last August. So I also think there's a few players that Miami could dangle. They could potentially send a running back, whether that be Jeff Wilson. I think is a stylistically similar player. He's less appealing than what Kyer Elam would be. They need edge help. They need wide receiver help. The Dolphins have Emmanuel Ogbah, Andrew Van Ginkel. They have Cedric Wilson at wide receiver. I think they need help at wide receiver. So if you wanted a rookie contract player, Eric Ezukama has been good in the preseason. So I think there's some young players Miami can dangle. Devon A-Chain, would the Colts want that kind of player? And, you want a rookie contract type player?
You probably would. I think Shane Steichen would be interested in that.
So I think Miami has some players, but I think if Miami were to do it, you're either looking at a 2024 day 2 pick, which would be your 2, and then a 2025 day 2 pick, or a meaningful player that has multiple years left on their contract.
I feel like the biggest challenge for Miami has to be, I know that there's levers that they can pull to get cap space, but there's several players that are contract extension ready, whether it's Christian Wilkins, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt. Off the top of my head, Javon Allen's coming up, Waddle's coming up, Tua. It's like, all right, is this where you want to put some funds? I think that's kind of where you have to ask yourself that question. Phillips is going to have 15 sacks. You've told me that for a long time now. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's got to be a piece of this.
Yeah, I think you'd be surrendering an interior lineman, be that Zach Sealer, Rob Hunt.
One. Yeah.
One of those two guys, Connor Williams. I think those are the kinds of the names that, if you go 1-for-1 with the contract, you are probably saying goodbye to one of them long term. Now, you can make the argument a cornerstone player versus guys that are quality starters. you might make the argument, well, we're upgrading and it's going to be about the same price as what we pay, and you're paying a better relative player at a relatively equal, less valued position. I don't know. There's a whole debate there. We're not going to get into it. We have next the Baltimore Ravens. Do you think Baltimore falls into the send to one category? They have all their picks this year, and they have all their picks next year. I lied. They do not have their sixth next year, but that's it.
I think that they would think about that. They also, I think they like Melvin Gordon, who they signed, and not that he would prevent you from Jonathan Taylor, but I think they deserve to be in this mix because of the style of football that they play and just how dynamic that backfield of Jackson and Taylor would be.
Yep. Obviously, the Colts, there's not a draft capital conversation there, so they can advance to the next round of this conversation as well. The Kansas City Chiefs have all of their organic picks in rounds 1 through 4. I think they're another team that sending a late one is a good argument for, just because the threshold is probably pick 28, right? Like,
well, yeah. And I mean, maybe they toss in Clyde Edwards-Helaire too, just to kind of give him some life. But I don't think the Chiefs need to do this. I think Pacheco's a really exciting young player, but I don't think he makes you say no to JT. And obviously they have to figure things out with Chris Jones, but there are so many levers that they can pull to create cap space. They got a ton of cap space next year as well. So I think that the Chiefs are very much a team that I think should be in this conversation.
The last AFC team that we had was the Los Angeles Chargers. They have no pick swaps in any of the next 3 years. So rounds 1 through 7, each of the next 3 years, they're locked and loaded.
I don't like this for the Chargers. I think their roster is already kind of loaded with some heavy contracts. I think replenishing with young talent is probably a draft picks, like rookie deal contributors, is what I think that they need more of. They're going to have some expensive extensions still to come here. Isn't
that a debate for what the dollars is in segment 3 though? Like from a picks perspective, they have the assets.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to tell everybody
about our partners at eBay Motors and how they've teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. So whether you're prepping for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So with draft prep underway for the upcoming season, let's see who Vinny has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Looking for a player to take in fantasy football drafts who will spark his new team's offense and help you speed to victory? Then use a luxury pick on Jaguars wide receiver Calvin Ridley. Ridley has looked sleek during his first camp in Jacksonville and ready to rev up again after his time in Atlanta, taking full advantage of riding with rising star Trevor Lawrence as his quarterback. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with their vehicle. With eBay Guaranteed Fit and over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, taillights, alternators, shock struts, you name it, eBay Motors has it, and they'll make sure it's the right fit for your car, because eBay Guaranteed Fit helps you understand exactly what part you need for your vehicle the first time. So go forth, switch gears, crank the AC, and say goodbye to sweating if your ride needs a little fixing up, because now you know you'll always be set up for success from the get-go. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. For the parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
So, fun fact about the Eagles with their draft capital, they're all over the map. So, they have their first and second round pick. They have another second round pick courtesy of the trade with the Saints. So, they have 2 2s next year. Mm-hmm. They do not have a 3. It went to the Texans to trade up for Keely Ringo. They have a conditional 4 right now, but they might not have a 4 at all, depending on what Jalen Reagor does from a production standpoint with Minnesota. He needs 40 receptions or 500 receiving yards or 5 touchdowns in 2022 or 2023.
I don't look good.
Right. So you're looking at Philly might have a 1, 2 twos, and then nothing till the 5th round. At least you got 2 twos.
I think they could do it if they wanted to.
Correct.
And I'm sure these teams that we're about to talk about, I'm sure that the Colts, part of them would love to send him to the NFC.
I'm sure they would.
Right.
But it's worth acknowledging the 2 teams with the most complicated draft pick situation that we've covered thus far is Miami and Philadelphia. For pursuing a trade based off of us not wanting to send a 1 for Jonathan Taylor, unless you're like, yeah, we're going to play in the conference championship game at worst.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas has their organic picks in rounds 1 through 4, and then they have a lot going on in the 7th round next year. They don't have picks in the 5th or 6th round. So they should be good with next year's immediate draft capital. And then in 2025, they have all their organic picks. So they're a team that's pretty stable. This is going to be a total guess on my part in what I have to type into the URL bar to get Washington to come up, because there's been some evolution in some websites reflected and some websites don't. It's the Commanders, so we're good. They have all of their organic draft picks in each of the next 2 seasons for sure. They have a potential conditional pick swap with Pittsburgh for the William Jackson trade. I don't think that's going to happen because Jackson's gone.
Yep.
So they have all of their organic picks in each of the next 2 years as well. So they are in good shape. Minnesota, this one should be fun. What would you guess off the top of your head? Are we in a surplus?
They've been trading guys like crazy, moving around in the draft picks in the draft. I have no idea what to expect here.
So they have rounds 1 and 2. They do not have a 3. It belongs to Detroit for the Hawkinson trade.
Mm-hmm.
They have a 4 from Detroit as the Hawkinson trade. So it was pick swap.
Mm-hmm.
And then they might have their 5, or it might go to Philly depending on what happens with Jalen Reagor. Okay, so they might have 1, 2, and 2, 4. So they might have a 1, 2, and a 4. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the 5th round. They'll have assets to work with if they needed to. And then in 2025, their organic picks rounds 1 through 4. So you would say they probably have the draft capital as well. Chicago's a team has surplus.
Yep.
I'm not even gonna pull it up. They traded out of the 1st overall pick. They've got extra picks.
Yeah. Matt Eberflus, he knows that Jonathan Taylor guy.
Right. That might be the most, from a schematic standpoint, that might be the most terrifying place for him to go.
Oh, run blockers. And look, I like Khalil Herbert and Deontay Foreman. Like, those are like some of my favorite backup running backs in the NFL.
Right. And you put them in backup roles, they'll be really good.
Right.
Tampa Bay has organic picks in rounds 1 through 4. Their 5 belongs to Philadelphia. They traded to go up and get Trey Palmer. And then they have all their organic picks in 2025. So they also have all of their picks, which just leaves the Rams. What do you think they look like?
Who knows? I mean, at some point they got to get their picks back. They haven't had that many trades recently.
This is it. This is the year. They've got picks 1 through 5.
Wow. Welcome to the draft, Los Angeles
And then
Rams.
rounds 1 through 7 in 2025. They have 2 potential picks in round 6. Well, they will have a round 6 pick as well, but it's either theirs or Denver's. There's a conditional pick that happened with the Bills with a day 3 trade last year. So the Bills will be picking up an extra 6. So the Rams have the draft capital as well. So there you go. So there's the draft capital. Everybody's got the picks to do it. I'd say Philadelphia and Miami are the most complicated. I think Minnesota not having a 3 kind of hurts because they're probably not a team that would be in a position to trade a 1-2.
So did we eliminate anybody there?
I think if you were going to put blockades on teams, those would probably be the 3 that I would say is it's most complicated for, and therefore it's maybe less likely.
Right, but I still think you can look. You said Miami, Minnesota,
Philadelphia,
right.
Minnesota.
And I would eliminate Philadelphia just because I don't think from a team building philosophy that they're going to do it. All right. Miami, I think from a team building philosophy, they will do it, right? This has kind of been their trend over the last couple of years. It's just a matter of if from a cap perspective, they're willing to make that commitment to Jonathan Taylor and then figure it out from there with the rest of their guys. I think that's where it gets challenging for them. And by the way, I think Raheem Mostert and Wilson and Etienne are perfectly good backs, but obviously Jonathan Taylor can really take this rushing offense to another level, and then you complement that with Waddle and Hill, and it's like, well, nobody wants to play the Dolphins.
So I think that's the complicating thing with that stable of backs is Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert. While I think they're competent backs, what kind of track record do they have of being historically reliable?
Yeah, they're banged up guys. And what, A-Chain's got a shoulder already, and he's small.
Already, as a smaller back. Yeah.
Right. So I get it.
So I'd say if we're just going to eliminate a team, Philadelphia, and I know for a fact Miami has at least called.
Yeah, I don't think we would eliminate.
I don't think you can eliminate them.
I wouldn't eliminate Miami, no.
So let's do 2024 cap space. I'm going to give you the teams in the order of according to overthecap.com. So don't yell at us. It's according to overthecap.com. The order of these teams in descending order. So starting with the most, the Chicago Bears have $85 million in cap space projected for 2024.
Come on, this is kind of adding up, isn't it? They got the capital, they got the picks, they got Eberflus, they got the identity.
Justin
Come on.
Fields.
Right, like what? All right.
The Indianapolis Colts are second on this list with $73 million. Dude,
they don't want to give any of that to JT, though.
Just love sitting on piles of money that we're not going to spend.
Incredible. It's incredible. Ballard's been doing this for years.
The next team in line is the Kansas City Chiefs with $52 million. Right. And as you said, just a plethora of ways to create.
Oh my God.
Probably
we haven't even touched Mahomes' contract yet, man. There's so much opportunity that they have for space.
Minnesota, 50. And Kirk's in a contract year too. So like you might be transitioning to a young quarterback, in which case that'd be, imagine Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, and TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison to throw the ball.
Christian Darrisaw too.
Darrisaw up front. Yeah. They're pretty young up front.
Yeah.
Pretty young up front. Okay. Next is the Rams of all teams with $47.8 million projected.
Eventually had to come back, right?
Right. Philadelphia, who we kind of axed in the last round, but it is a little open-ended, $47 million projected in cap space. So props to Howie. They've navigated that tough year with all the void years, and they're going to get some influx back. The Buccaneers with $27 million in cap space projected right now. I think they got some old players that you could probably start to transition.
They do. They also got to figure out something at quarterback.
And they also need to extend Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah, that's a $26 million
probably,
thing right there. So,
so you're starting to get into a little bit of gray area. The Baltimore Ravens, 15.6.
I'm sure there's some levers they can pull. That's not eliminating them.
You're not at a dire situation just yet. Next, you have Dallas with $944,000 projected right now.
Might get tough there. You got some extensions to hand out.
Yeah, and you were already super leery about giving Zach Martin an extra $4 million a season.
I think that probably eliminates them.
I think it makes it less likely, right? Yeah. They're now a far less likely team. Never mind, there's, from a Cowboys fan perspective, the Zeke Elliott PTSD that another running back contract.
Right, I get it.
I get it too. The Buffalo Bills, negative $25 million in cap space.
Scratch them off the list. I mean, what?
Joe's like, I'm not even going to make the case because I don't want it to happen. So just gloss right over.
I mean,
how's their levers?
Oh, they got levers for sure. That's not a concern.
Allen restructure is good for probably $30 million in cap space.
Yeah, they got all of that stuff still exists. They've got levers. They have extensions. Bean's done it all. But are you going to do it all to get this running back? I don't know, man. I don't think they're going to.
The Dolphins next with negative 32. They're already in a position where we've kind of alluded to. They have some big money contracts to hand out. They're going to be transitioning away from a number of big money players. If they want to go they largely still have not touched void years. So that's the big thing for them with restructures. If they want to turn this into, hey, we're going to have a very defined 5 to 6 year window and then we know we're going to have to tear it down at the end of the rainbow no matter what, and we want to go for it, it will not be prohibitive to them to do it, but it is more complicated and there's more long-term implications than the other teams that we've talked about this far. So it makes it less likely, I would say. And then you have the Chargers at -50.
Sorry, I mean, come on. They're already in a contract dispute with a running back. I don't know.
Right. So the teams that kind of cleared all the hurdles with flying colors are Chicago, Indianapolis, Minnesota's up there, Kansas City is up there, and then you're kind of getting down into teams that have like middle of the pack cap space at their disposal.
And with Chicago and Minnesota, those are also NFC teams.
Right. So there's that extra feather in your cap.
Jonathan Taylor, a Bear?
He's kind of an NFC North kind of player, right? I
We'll
think about
see.
Berman.
Right. Woo! All right.
Rumbling, bumbling, stumbling.
Contract extension is going to be expensive. We didn't really get into this, but what, $16 million is what McCaffrey's at? You'd have to. I mean, that's what we're talking. 16, 17 million a season, I would guess.
Do you think he would take 13?
That would put him third. That put him above Henry, below Kamara for third.
Yeah.
Chubb got 12.5 or 12.2.
And when did that one sign?
It's a couple years ago.
So
I don't know. I think he wants the most. I think he wants 16.5.
Man, there is just such a wide strike zone between 15 and 12.5. Because Derrick Henry's third with 12.5. Chubb 12.2. Aaron Jones 11.5. And then Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, and Saquon Barkley on the franchise tag are tied for 6th. Can I put you at 15.5? Can I put you at 15.1? Put you second place?
I don't think it's less than 13. I think that's 13 to 17 is your strike.
He's going to land at least third. So you're talking $13 to $17 million per season. So being a team that's got $50+ million in cap space starting next year, like Minnesota and Chicago, is a really, and Kansas City already. Kansas City already qualifies for that.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Kansas City, you could see them giving up the one and being done with it. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round. They know they're picking in the last 4 picks, right? Like, there's no chance it's anything else than that.
Fun times to be an NFL fan.
Never stops, man.
Going to do it for us here on this episode of Locked On NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He is Joe Marino. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Make it a great rest of your day. We're out of here, and we will keep you posted as the Jonathan Taylor saga and the rest of this soap opera leading up to the 2023 NFL season unfolds.